Hey everyone, it's Holmes from Storybooks, and today I'm here to do the Future Classics book tag. This tag was started by Eric Carl Anderson, and he's just the sweetest. This tag is all about the books you think will be classics in the coming years. Imagine if we did a revisited version of this in like 10 years to see how many of us were right. That'd be so cool. On with the tag. Question 1 is pick an established classic you think will still be relevant in the future. I feel like the really simple answer to this one would be to say Shakespeare's plays, because so many people study it in school. But for this one, I'm going to say The Memoirs and Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. I think we as a people just have a fascination with crime and solving crimes and who's committing crimes. Sherlock Holmes is a wonderfully realized character, so realized, in fact, that Doyle was regularly getting letters written to him as if he was Sherlock. The author tried to kill him off, but did not succeed, and wrote several more stories about him until he finally had the famous detective retire and go to Sussex and keep bees and never, ever, ever, ever solve another crime again. The end. It's been adapted and adapted and adapted, and there's just something so evocative about these stories and the characters that I think Sherlock Holmes and his Dr. Watson will never die. In fact, come to think of it, my wife and I are a great example of that. Her name is Watson and my name is Holmes. We thought it would be so fun to change our names until we saw the paperwork, but it's still fun to say at parties. So at least as long as we're alive, the legend continues. Pick a recent book which you feel has gone under the radar, but which you're confident will be a future classic. Scarborough by Catherine Hernandez is my pick for this one. It was longlisted for the Canada Reads Prize in 2018, and it's short fiction told from multiple perspectives about a community in Toronto. It's a story told with such love and tenderness, and I cried like 4 separate times while reading it, both sad and happy tears. There's a whole cast of characters like First Nations families, a young Filipino boy, a Muslim daycare center worker, and they're all so believable, and I was cheering for them all. I totally think it should have been on the shortlist. I think it's a little under the radar here because although Arsenal Pulp Press, one of my favorite publishing houses, did such a fantastic job of publishing it here in Canada, I don't know if other houses have picked it up, so that's why I say it's gone under the radar a little bit. Pick a title that won of your favorite book prizes recently, which you think will still be lauded in 50 years' time. This one will be more difficult because a lot of the time, the books that are nominated for prizes that I love don't win. In a lot of cases, I think this is because some of the judges just don't have taste, but that's fine. So I'm going to pick the first one that came to my mind, and that is Beloved by Toni Morrison. It won the Pulitzer in 1988 and was a finalist for the National Book Award in 1987. Beloved is a story set after the American Civil War, and it's about a former slave girl named Seth who believes that she lives in a house haunted by a baby's ghost, and it only gets spookier and more arresting and more thrilling from there. It discusses mother-daughter relationships, the psychological impact and trauma of slavery, and is dedicated to 60 million and more, referring to the people who died or who were directly affected by the African slave trade and their descendants. Morrison commands my attention when I read her work like few other authors do. If I read her work, I can't put it down, even if I want to. When I read her work, I rarely read anything else, and what I appreciate about her work the most is how she gets me to open up as a reader and truly listen. I think for these reasons, she will be lauded in 50 years' time. Question 4 is pick a recent book you haven't read yet, but which you think might become a classic based on reputation alone. Reviews, responses on Goodreads, BookTube recommendations, etc. For this, I'm going to choose Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn. This book has been everywhere, and let me tell you, I waited such a long time to get this from the library, even though they had something like 25 copies, or audiobook copies. It's about a young man named Jojo, whose father is coming out of prison. Meanwhile, his mother is struggling with substance abuse and is seeing ghosts. I feel like it's going to be a heart-wrenching, dramatic look at one family told through multiple perspectives. I've heard it might win the Pulitzer. It's also in the running to win the Women's Prize, so I mean, it's just riding this wave of success and notoriety. I do have to say that I waited for it for so long, I almost don't want to read it until the hype has died down a bit. But it doesn't look like the hype will die down anytime soon. This is one of those books where I was intimidated to read it because there's just so much talk about it. But then I read the dedication. Isn't that just so beautiful? That totally blew me away. If her dedications are as good as her book, I'll have to check out her work. The last question, question 5, is Pick a favorite book that you want to save for your grandchildren or your friends' grandchildren to read in 50 years' time. For this, I have no choice but to go with The Wacky Book of Witches by Anne Civardi and illustrated by Philpot. This book is absolutely bonkers, its illustrations are absolutely gorgeous, and I loved this book growing up. I used to pore over the super detailed illustrations for hours and hours, giggling at something gross or finding something new I hadn't seen before. Then I grew up and I moved house. I forgot the title, I vaguely remembered what the cover looked like, blue, with a witch flying on a broom, and spent night after night googling it and wishing I could have it back in my hands again. And then one day, I found it. I ordered it secondhand off Amazon and crossed all my fingers and all my toes and hoped like hell it would reach my house safely. After more than 10 years, I finally have it in my possession again, and if you think I'm going to give this up, you would be incorrect. It's such an underrated out-of-print classic, but look at it. It's brilliant. I think the one thing better than reading this after so many years would be introducing it to little people I love and watching them read it for the first time. Thanks to Eric for making such a cool tag, and if you haven't been tagged, you have now. That's it, that's all for this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone!